Hello everyone, I'm Cody Ojeda and welcome to the Oz Football Talk YouTube channel. I've been working on this for a while now. I've been talking about it for God knows how long. I'm so glad I'm finally getting it kicking off. And what better way to start than a classic ladder prediction vid? The 2024-2025 A-League men's season is just a week away and I want to put a twist on my ladder prediction this year. For every prediction that I get wrong, however far off I am from where that team actually finished, I'll be donating $5 to charity. So for example, if the team I say comes last ends up coming say 8th, that'll be $25 for charity. Full disclosure, this is 100% ripped off from German football content creator Fiago. If he does come across this vid, I'd be very shocked, but I do apologize. And I thought I'd put my lack of ball knowledge to some good in the world. But alas, let's get to it. In 12th place, Brisbane Roar. Now I say this at the start of just about every A-League season, but it always looks like it's going to be the most well-balanced season that we see. But I can't definitively put this Brisbane Roar side ahead of anyone right now. Look at the players they've let leave the club. Truan, Aldred, Mile-Uznic, Gomulka, Armiento, Rojas, Brownlee. You're talking about important players that have had an impact on the first team. On paper, I don't 100% trust the players they've brought in, but considering how tight the league is, one or two of them coming off could turn things around, particularly with unknown players like Shaw or Struik. You have a spine of Belidi, Shaw, O'Shea, Berenguer and Struik. Don't get me wrong, there's talented players there. O'Shea is one of the league's top midfielders, but it's one with a lot of unknown quality and still a question on whether they can work together well. Right now, I'm not going to stick my neck out and say that it'll come off. In 12th place, Western United. For me, for a side that underperformed last season, this off-season hasn't been that promising. Losing Pena is a massive blow, and I'd argue the losses of Wales and Risdon will hit home too. Aside from that, I don't think there's much disparity between their squad this season to last season. Pasquale and Thurgate will probably fill the creative void that Pena's left behind. One thing about Western United is I really do think their performances were better than the results suggested last season. So if things can click for them, a finals push may be on the cards. But considering the quality in the squad hasn't increased, I can't say the results will either. 11th. Adelaide United. Having them this low may look a bit disrespectful, but I actually don't think this side is that bad. There's decent experience at the back despite a lot of turnover in that area. There's a good core of young players with the likes of Yule, Alagic, Kikianis. It's actually a decent squad. What holds this side back for me is the lack of an X-Factor type player. Adelaide have been propped up in recent years by players of the likes of Craig Goodwin, Nestori Ira and Kunda. Yes, there's talented young players in this squad still, but I don't think any of them are at the level that they can have that kind of impact on the first team just yet. That, and I think a few sides that finished below them last season have surpassed them in terms of quality. 10th. Perth Glory. This is a squad I'm really intrigued by. There's a lot of high potential young players, old players returning home, and even someone like Hiroki Aoyama I'm really excited by. I think a little bit like Adelaide is that lack of an X-Factor type player will hold them back too though. But considering it's been a turbulent period for Perth and now trying to stabilise with a new coach and new squad, expectations shouldn't really rise too high too fast. Use this year to let Zrulic set a foundation within the club and the team. Long term you'll look okay. 9th. Newcastle Jets. I honestly don't see much difference between Newcastle Jets this season and last season. Out of the players that have left, either they haven't had the biggest impact on the first team, or they're just generally not that big a loss. The only exception to this being Stamatolopoulos and Moragas. In a nice way, it's probably not the highest quality side on paper, but one thing I'm really big on is Stanton's ability as a coach. He's had a year to settle in and stamp his authority on things. I think this year we'll see some real progression under him. 8th. Macarthur FC. Yes, they won the Australia Cup, but considering when the tournament plays out and the unpredictable nature of Australian football, I don't think it can be used as a proper gauge to how a team's going to perform the next season. Last time Macarthur won the cup, they finished last the next year. There's a strong squad there, but adding the likes of Economidis, Yakolish, Sawyer and Bratton isn't bad at all. There's a strong defensive foundation too that we saw in the Australia Cup. I do think they'll start the season really well, and if they can maintain that level of consistency, a top 4 push could be on the cards, or at the very least a push for finals. I wouldn't be surprised if they slowly get figured out though and eventually drop down the table as the season goes on. 7th. Auckland FC. This side's probably flown under the radar a little bit because there is a lot of unknown quality, but I actually think there's the building blocks of a good A-League team there. Focus on what we know first. Smith, Brimmer, Hall, Galloway, Chapness, Elliott and Paulson are all quality players. On top of that, their visa players all look like shrewd pickups, with some coming in at good ages too. Combine this with a number of New Zealand internationals, some coming from various leagues around Europe or from the New Zealand Premier League. It's not a bad squad. I just think the time it'll take for them to gel and the amount of players getting used to a new level of football may hold them back from finals, but they could just as easily make a run for it. 6th. Wellington Phoenix. Last season was probably a warning for anyone that wants to underestimate this team, so I will not be making that mistake again. Zawada, Old, Krayev, Paulson and Sermon are all massive losses, but their recruitment has looked decent, particularly the new visa players in Josh Oluwayemi, Hideki Ishige and Kasugi Nagasawa. Italiano's proven to be a quality coach too. If the side gels quickly and with the tactical nuance they showed last season, they'll be strong once again. 5th, Western Sydney Wanderers. This might prove to be a big call, but I've actually got a lot of faith in this Wanderers team. There's a good blend of youth and experience, and Tai Wook and Krayev come in at good ages and stages of their careers. Players like Milanovic and Priestman I think can establish themselves as league-leading players at the very least in their positions, and the likes of Sapsford, Hammond and Bonnetig are set up to have a real impact on the first team this year. As well as Pelikanos, who's just rejoined the club. A finals charge will probably rely on Borello staying fit and Mata being as effective as everyone expects him to be, but those aren't far-reaching scenarios. 4th, Melbourne City. Another controversial call maybe, but I can't see a City side this stacked struggling a second season in a row. All their additions look good, and aside from McLaren, Arslan and Good, none of their outs had a major impact on the first team last season. Players like Atkinson, Beige and Cyprian at the back, Truan, Kuhn and Jego in the middle, and Tilio, Lecky, Nabu, Cohen, and a variety of youngsters in the front three is really good. 3rd, Central Coast Mariners. I think people's perceptions of the Mariners are going to be slightly skewed from a rough start to their ACL Elite campaign, but I don't actually think the drop off in quality is that much from last year. Ballard, Nisbet, Vukovic, Hall and Farrell are the main losses from last season, but there's enough talent in the squad to replace that. Steele's good enough to come into a starting role, and McCalmont will pair with him. Sainsbury replaces the experience at the back that Vuka's left behind. Moragas is a perfect replacement for Farrell quality wise. Plus Fehau and Nor come into the squad. DePizio set up to have a real impact on the first team, and players like Eames and DeLima prove they're still young talent to be discovered. The Mariners tend to start slow. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the best of them until late January or even February. But this is a really good side. I'd be shocked if we're not seeing them in finals. 2nd, Sydney FC. I promise this isn't Douglas Costa tax. I genuinely think this side is brilliant. Everything that's available to see if their new forward line looks really strong. Uwahim looks like it could be the signing of the season. It's genuinely hard to fault this team. I know I'm not predicting them to win the league, but I'd back them to make a really good charge for it. And in first place, your 2024-2025 A-League Premiers, Melbourne Victory. This probably won't be a case of them running away with it, but the building blocks of a premiership winning team are there. There's a strong starting 11, a good blend of youth and experience. Holding on to Mashash was crucial, and Virgos looks like a competent visa striker. I think the biggest question about this team will be how Kisnorbo settles into the club. Considering he's an old City boy, there was always going to be a fair amount of scrutiny. And dropping Arzani for the Australia Cup final has rubbed fans the wrong way. But he's never been one to focus on niceties, and if there's one thing he does consistently in Australia, it's win. Plus, I have Langerak joining in January. The moment he comes in, he's automatically the best goalkeeper in the league. That is a massive bonus. So there you have it. That's how I see the ladder finishing at the regular season. Agree with me? Disagree with me? Be sure to let me know in the comments. And like I said, for every team that I do get wrong, however far off they finish from where I said they would, that's $5 for charity. And where that money goes, I want to leave in your hands too. Do you want to see it go to a football charity like DT38 or the Pararoos cause, or something completely external? Be sure to let me know in the comments on this video or on the socials. So that's all for today. If you're still watching, I really do appreciate you. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more content. Stay smart, stay beautiful. I'll see you in the next one.